See all you guys again. My background. When I left school here in '95, I worked shortly, just a few months at the Auburn newspaper, which is my hometown. I'm from Auburn, born and raised there, so I grew up in this area. Worked at the newspaper there through college as I was working on the school paper for a couple of years, doing some photography on weekend sports and some writing just to get a foot in my door. I was maybe like you or unlike some of you, coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to be in journalism. I grew up around it. So when I came to school, my career path was kind of set in terms of I knew the classes I wanted to take, and that's what I wanted to get into. I thought I was going to be a radio guy or maybe TV, and I can blame or credit Doc Holtz, however you want to phrase it, for kind of steering me down the newspaper path. I wrote probably what was a really crummy story at the time for the school paper, and he kind of pulled me aside and said, you need to maybe take a look at this, you got some potential. So I guess I can either blame or credit him for the path I took. But after I graduated here in '95, I worked shortly for the Auburn paper for a few short months. Went to Kearney, at the Kearney Hub, and joined the staff as a sports writer. And in short, I wrote sports for about 5 or 6 years at the Hub. My main focus was high school sports in that area. I was also the beat writer for Husker football and covered a couple of Husker National Championship games in the mid-'90s. That was a fun time, being kind of a young, naive journalist, rubbing elbows with a lot of the big guys that cover college football from the networks and the large newspapers and the Sports Illustrateds of the world. And that really kind of reinforced my career choice. I enjoyed being in that atmosphere, that deadline pressure and high intensity that comes with sports and covering those kinds of things. But eventually the sports side of the business got a little mundane for me. You can only write how to score a touchdown so many different ways, and it all starts kind of sounding the same. And to be honest, it wasn't really challenging me anymore, personally and professionally. It was just becoming, you cover a lot of basketball, a lot of football, a lot of volleyball, a lot of this and that, and it got a little generic for me. So I made a move, stayed in the newsroom at the Hub, and went over to the newsroom side where I became the business reporter, I guess was the title. More accurate was I became more of a general assignment reporter. So I covered the police beat, fires and shootings and breaking news type things like that on the crime side. A lot of the focus was economic development, real estate, banking. In Kearney's a real progressive community in Nebraska. I don't know how much you guys know about Kearney, but it truly is one of the shining stars in the state in terms of economic development. So it was a really good beat to have at that time because a lot of growth. So I would write everything from real estate, housing, construction trends to, when Menards came to town and built something as silly as that, or a new restaurant. I would write those types of stories. It was fun. Probably one of the highlights a lot of people ask in terms of my time at the Hub was I got to cover President Clinton's visit to Kearney, and I'm not going to remember the date, late '90s. And I was picked as one of the journalists in Nebraska by luck. It's just throw them in a hat and draw names to be in the presidential motorcade. So I got to ride in the limo right behind President Clinton's limo, in Air Force One when the presidential motorcade went through Kearney. He spoke at UNK, at University of Nebraska Kearney. So I was one of the 7 reporters that just, by the luck of the draw, got selected to ride in the motorcade, take photos, and write kind of a behind-the-scenes look at his visit in Kearney. That was, to this day, kind of a highlight in my career to be involved in that and see everything that goes on behind the scenes in a presidential visit. I've covered murders and shootouts and dodged bullets, if you can believe that, and another reason for getting out of the business. So a lot of what sounds cool now, but a little scary at the time. But bottom line, a lot of experiences. You can imagine anything that goes on in a community, and covering it for 15 years. I was at the Hub, and I just left about 2.5 years ago to go work at the event center, which I'll jump into. The newspaper business has changed dramatically the last 5 or 6 years. It's always evolving, but it changed to the point to where if you're in newspaper journalism right now, or any journalism for that matter, my strength has always been writing, and that's what I enjoyed. The journalism career got to the point where when you get back from covering an event, it was get a couple paragraphs on the web, make sure you take video, make sure you get audio up, and now it's get it on Facebook, that's how you break stories, get it on Twitter. And there were like all these things that you had to do before you actually have to sit down at the computer and start pounding out a story. And that's fine, and it's not that didn't like change, but it got to be where I was becoming a TV guy, standing in front of a video camera with the story happening behind me, reporting live, so they could record it and go back and put it on the web right away. And the story component isn't as important anymore. And that frustrated me. It's a part of the business that I appreciate now being away from it as a reader. I love being able to go on the web and see breaking news right away before it's even, I don't have to wait till the next day's newspaper. I mean, I get it, but being on the inside of the business, it became difficult for me to be a writer, which is what I am and always have been. I don't have a face for TV. I'm not a good radio guy. So I was asked to do all these other things that was taking away from my true love. So when people ask why I kind of jumped ship, and I say it that way because in the media business, if you're a journalist and you go to the PR side, which I am now, media relations, you're kind of a traitor. You know, they look at you a different way. So I say that part jokingly, but part seriously too.